Okay, let's take a look at this question. There's a class of 100 students. 23 of them earned an A on the last test. We want to know what percent of them earned an A on the last test. Before we can do this, we have to talk about what a percent really is. So let's take a look at this next thing. A percent is actually a ratio or fraction whose denominator is 100. Now think about this. We started with fractions a while ago. I think that was Mod 4. I can't even remember, but I think it was Mod 4. Then we went to the next topics, which was decimals. And the reason that fits so nicely there is because a decimal was a fraction whose denominator was a power of 10. Now we're going to percents, and now that's a fraction whose denominator is not a power of 10, but 100, that specific power of 10. So it's not any power of 10, but 100, that specific power of 10. And the percent sign, of course, is this little symbol right there. Okay, so remember that percent means out of 100. So if I say 10%, that means 10 out of 100. That's what that means. Percent means per 100. So let's look at the first thing we can look at our workbook. It says a $40 tip for a $100 bill. Well, since it's a $100 bill, that means it's $40 out of $100. The denominator is 100, so that's 40%. In the next example, it's a nickel out of a dollar. Well, it's a dollar, so it's 5 out of 100, okay, which is 5%. Next one is 89 points out of a 100-point test. So again, it's 89 out of 100, which makes that 89%. So as long as your denominator is 100, the top number is the percent. It's really that simple. Okay, so let's take a look at the next set of questions. Well, if this is true, that if the denominator is 100, you have a percent, take a look at these examples. 6 out of 100 has to be 6% because the denominator is 100. 25 out of 100 has to be 25%. So as long as your denominator is 100, percents are simple. 300 out of 100, that is 300%. That means 3 times as much. Okay? 0.2 over 100 is 0.2%. I know that because the denominator is 100. And equally true, 0.071 or 71 thousandths is 0.071%. It's very simple if the denominator is 100. So in a class of 100 students, 23 of them earned an A. Well, that is simple. My handy-dandy eraser. Okay. Because that is 23 out of 100, which is 23%. That's so easy because the denominator is 100. So that's all you do. Let's take a look at this next question. It says, now look, words come on. We have a lot more words here. The total yearly sales of all canned lunch meat is 148 million. Spam's yearly sales is 62% of all canned lunch meat sales. Have you ever eaten Spam? Is Spam even on the market anymore? Anyway, okay. Find the total yearly sales for Spam to the nearest million. That takes us to a whole new type of problem. I mean, now we have to take 62% of all canned lunch meat. 62% of all canned lunch meat is Spam. Watch what this breaks down to. 62% of means to multiply, all canned lunch meat. All canned lunch meat is 148 million. So our answer will be in terms of million. Instead of adding all the zeros, we could just say our answer will be in terms of million. Is Spam equals Spam? Well, we want to know this answer. It means we're going to have to multiply this. Well, before we can do this, we have to learn how we can multiply a percent by some number. So let's look at the following examples, and then we'll come back to this problem. Okay, 54%. Let's remember what we just said that meant. That means 54 out of 100, because percent means out of 100. Well, this is simple. Because if you remember something we did 2 lessons ago, 1 lesson ago, I can't even remember. But before today, okay, here's what we did. We know that when you divide by 100, that just means you take your decimal point and move it 2 places to the left. So if my decimal's here, I move it 2 places to the left, and I have 0.54. So all you do is drop the percent sign and divide it by 100, which means move the decimal 2 places to the left. So let's take a look at number 2. And then I'll let you do some of these and we'll check our answers. not 0.4%. See what a smudge does in math? Smudges are bad. Okay, 4%. 4% means 4 out of 100, because percent means out of 100. So we have to divide this by 100. So our decimals here, remember, we have to take the decimal, move it 2 places to the left. So there's 1 place, and we have to add a 0 for that second place. So it's 0.04. So 4% is the same thing as 0.04. Try 3 through 6, and then we'll check our answers. Okay, let's see how you did on these. 27.01% means out of 100. Take the decimal, move it 2 places to the left. So we're going to go 1, 2 places. So it's 0.27, I'm having a little trouble with 7, 2701. And that's your answer there. Let's take a look at number 4. 456%. Remember what a decimal is? Decimal's right there. We have to move it 2 places to the left. 1, 2, 4.56. Okay? 0.3%, again, 0.3 over 100. We have to move that decimal 2 places to the left. So we're going to have to add 2 zeros. So that's 1, 2. So it's 0.003. And finally, 100%. It's 100 over 100, which is 1. Think about that. That makes total sense, because if I say I got 100% correct, it means I got everything correct on that test. Okay, so 100 over 100 is 1. So 100% means the whole thing, which is what makes this make sense. This is more than 100, so this has to be bigger than 1. Okay, so that's pretty awesome. Okay, so to express a percent as a decimal, all you do is drop the percent sign, divide by 100, and by dividing by 100 we mean move the decimal 2 places to the left, and that's all there is to it. Okay, now let's take some percents, and sometimes we don't want the decimal, sometimes we want a fraction. So let's take some examples and change percents to fractions, which, if you think about it, has to be easy. Okay, let's take a look. All right, number 1. Number 1 is 13%. Percent means out of 100, so that's just 13 over 100. That's it. You want it in simplest form? And that's simplest form because that's prime. Remember what prime meant? Prime meant that the only factors of this number is 1 and 13. Since 13 doesn't divide into 100, that is in simplest form. So we're done there. Don't you wish they were all like that? 400 them on the next test. Okay, I'm kidding. That was a joke. Too easy. Okay, 2. 6.8%. Okay, 6.8% means 6.8 out of 100. Now, go back a long time ago when we talked about what a fraction really meant. In a fraction, remember, both the numerator and denominator had to be an integer. 6.8 is not an integer, okay? There cannot be any decimals or fractions in an integer. Let me remind you of what an integer is. An integer were these guys. -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, right? So 6.8 is not an integer. So technically, this is not a fraction. You're going, oh, it looks like a fraction. Technically, it's not a fraction. Just because there's a line there, it's not a fraction. Okay? It has to be, the numerator and the denominator must be an integer. So we'll fix that up for you. Well, we want the numerator and denominator to be an integer. Well, the way this could be an integer is we could move this decimal point to the right 1 place. I just can't move it there. Remember, if I touch the top, I have to touch the bottom. So let's talk about that. We're going to make an equivalent fraction, one that's acceptable. Well, to move it 1 place to the right, I have to multiply by 10. That's why understanding power of 10 is so important. But if I do that to the top, I have to do that to the bottom. And this is 68 over 1,000. Because remember, multiplying by 10 moves the decimal 1 place because there's 1 0 to the right. So I move it to the right here, I get 68. Remember the decimals here, move it to the right once, I have to add a 0 and get 1,000. Now, it says simplest form, I'm going to have to divide here. Now this is up to you. Where you want to start, you could start with 2, you could start with 4. Let's divide by 4, okay? You can only divide by 4 if you knew 4 went into that. Okay, here we go. 4 goes into 68 once, remainder 2, 17 times. 4 up, prime number, so I should be done after I do the bottom. 1,000 divided by 4 is 250. So it's 17 over 250. That's simplest form for that number. But understand right here, we had to play with this because this was not technically a fraction. Okay, let me do one more for you, and then you can try the next. Oh, I'll do the next two. I see a really hard one in number 4. I don't want to throw you to the wolves there. Okay, 180%. Okay, 180% means 180 over 100 because percent means out of 100. Okay, so here we go. It says, look at the directions, it says fraction or mixed number. This is definitely going to be a mixed number because this is an improper fraction. You have two choices. You can change it to a mixed number right now and then reduce it, or you can reduce it first. Up to you. I'm going to reduce it first because I know I can divide by 10 and get rid of the zeros, right? So I get 18 over 10. That was really simple. Now if I want, I can keep going. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. And I get 9/5. Now I'll change that to an improper fraction. Sorry, that is an improper fraction. I'll change it to a mixed number. Why? Because my directions told me to. Okay, so here I go. I'm changing this to a mixed number. Remember how to do this? 5 goes into 9 once. Remainder is 4. So we get, ready? 1 4/5. So that's my answer there. 1 4/5 is the same thing as 180%. That should make some sense to you. Here's why it should make some sense. Watch. 100% is 1. 180% has to be more than 1. But not as much as 2, because what would 2 be? 200%. So it's got to be somewhere between 1 and 2. Okay? And that's somewhere between 1 and 2. So let's take a look at number 4. All right, take a look at this one. This one is way too much fun. All right, we have 21 1/3%, so it means out of 100. Now, be very careful here. A lot of people like to change that to a decimal. We're not going to do that because it says we want our answer as a fraction or a mixed number. So take a look at what we're going to do. This is actually this top number divided by 100. So in order to divide, we're going to write it just like this. So maybe you can see it more clearly. And now in order to divide with a mixed number, remember we have to change it to an improper fraction. 3 times 21 is 63, plus 1 is 64/3. Divided by 100, but I'm going to put 100 over 1, right? Now we know how to do this. Okay, remember division of fractions. All this stuff always comes back. That's why you can't forget any of it. Okay, so now we're going to divide 64 over 3 divided by 100 over 1. So remember how to do this. We take 64 over 3, flip the division to multiplication. We need the reciprocal, so it's 1 over 100. And we get 64 times 1 is 64. 3 times 100 is 300. Okay, so let's divide. Let's reduce this. We can either reduce this way, or we could just come across, and I'm going to reduce here. Divide by 2, divide by 2, and we get 32 over 150. But notice I can reduce again. I should have divided by 4. Didn't think about it. It's okay. No big deal. I'm going to continue over here because we're getting very close to the bottom of that board. I would write on the bricks, but not cool. They'll get mad at me. Okay, so I'm going to divide by 2 again. Divide by 2 again. Remember, we're dividing by 2 over 2, which is really 1. Okay, don't forget we are only dividing or multiplying a fraction by 1. It's a form of 1. 2 divided by 2. 32 divided by 2 is 16. 150 divided by 2 is 75. So 21 1/3% is the same as 16 over 75. That is so cool. It takes into so many things that we already know. Percent means out of 100, how to divide a mixed number with a whole number, and how to reduce. So cool. You're not impressed, are you? Oh. Okay, let's do 100%. I'm going to take this off the board. I'm going to give you an easy one here, 100%. Well, we're going to want it as a fraction. 100% means 100 over 100. Guess what? 1. As a decimal or a fraction, it is 1, okay, because that's what it reduces to. So you're done there. So it's really, really simple to change a percent to a fraction. You drop the percent sign, you make a fraction with the numerator over 100, and then you simplify the fraction, and you are done. So awesome. All right, let's see how that helps us solve the problem we need to solve. Okay, let's revisit this spam question. As long as I don't have to eat it, I'm okay. 62% times 148, if you remember, equals x, equals spam. We had spam there, but spam is our x. All right. To do this, we either have to change 62% to a decimal or to a fraction. I'm going to change it to a decimal. Let's revisit again how to do this. 62% means 62 out of 100. If I want to change it to a decimal, I have to divide by 100, which means move the decimal 2 places to the left. So that's 0.62. So all I'm doing to answer this question is I'm taking 0.62 or 62 hundredths and multiplying it by 148. And that's going to be Spam sales. The sales of Spam. Whatever. Okay, so I'm going to multiply this. When I multiply, I get 91.76 million. Okay, and that equals X. But remember, we wanted to the nearest million. So nearest million means nearest whole number. So I'm going to do this. And I look at the number right next to it. And it's higher than a 5, so that goes up by 1. So it's 92 million sales for Spam. Good for Spam. Okay. Oh, that's Sam. Maybe Sam, but I think it's Spam. Okay, awesome. 92 million sales for Spam. Okay, let's take a look at another question. If you took an 11-question quiz and you got 8 questions correct, what was your grade? Now listen, I really know you want to know the answer to this because you guys ask me this all the time. So before we can do this problem, we got to visit some other concepts. Okay, remember, now we're trying to find the percent. So just let's recall this. That's 7, I'm going to get this mark off because it looks like point. 7% means 7 out of 100, or 0.07, or 0.07, however you want to write it. Because remember, you have to move the decimal 2 places to the left. Well, that means to go from a percent to a decimal, we have to move the decimal to the left. Well, how do you think then you go from a decimal to a percent? Well, you'd have to move the decimal to the right 2 places. That's pretty easy because you're going in the opposite direction. You're doing the opposite thing. So I want you to remember this, D to P. Actually, a 7th grader told me this, and it actually works out. Because alphabetically, D comes before P. Think of decimal, D for decimal, P for percent, decimal to percent. You want to go from a decimal to a percent, you got to move to the right. Percent to a decimal, you got to move to the left. Okay? And the reason you're moving 2 spaces to the left or right is because we're dividing or multiplying by 100. To get from a percent to a decimal, we divided by 100. And so guess what? To get from a decimal to a percent, we're multiplying by 100. It's really very simple. So let's take a look at some examples. Okay. And remember, when you multiply by 100, you move the decimal to the right. So let's do some problems. Okay, I'm going to leave this here as long as I can. Here we go. It says, express each as a percent. I'm going to do the first 3 with you, and then you can do the next 3, and we'll check our answers. .012. If you want that 0 there, you can. I don't particularly like it, but that's absolutely up to you. Okay, ready? We want to write these as a percent. So we're going to take 0.35 instead of dividing by 100, we're going to multiply by 100. So all we're doing is moving the decimal 2 places to the right. So 1, 2. Remember, decimal, 2%. D to P this way. Okay, alphabetically, this way to the right. So we get 35%. 35%. Next one, 2.41. Yes, we're multiplying by 100, but just remember, decimal to a percent, we're moving to the right 2 spaces. Why 2 spaces? Because there are 2 zeros in 100. So it's 241%, which makes sense because remember, 1 whole, 100% is 1, so this has got to be more than 100%. Okay, 0.012. We're going to move 2 places to the right. 0.012 times 100. That gives us 1.2%. Awesome. So easy. So give that a shot, 4, 5, and 6, and we'll check your answers. All right, let's see how you did. We have 1. 1 times 100 is 100%, but we already knew that because 100% is one whole. We already knew that. Let's take a look at this. 23. 23 times 100. Yes, it's 2,300%. Oh my gosh, awesome. That's how much more money I want to make next year. 2,300% of my salary. Okay, we'll talk about that later. All right, 0.1. 0.1 times 100, or 1/10 times 100. Take the decimal and move it 2 places. Remember, decimal 2%, moving in this direction, 2 places to the right. If I take it and move it 2 places, there's 1, need a placeholder 0. So that is 10%. So 0.1 is 10%. Awesome. All right? Now, we've done decimals and whole numbers. Now we're going to do fractions to a percent. Watch this. All right, ready? 3/8. Well, that's a fraction. We could actually just multiply it by 100 right now, or you could, if you'd like to, change it to a decimal first. It doesn't matter what you do. You can either just multiply it by 100 right now, which would mean you do this. Take 3/8 and multiply it by 100, and you get 300 over 8, and now divide, or you could have divided by the get-go and then multiplied by 100. Doesn't matter what you want to do, pick your own poison. And I'll show you both ways just so you can pick your own poison. Here we go. I'm going to divide here. Okay, because you want it, express it. Okay. 300. 8 goes into 3, no way. 8 goes into 30, 3 times, 24. We get 6, bring down the 0. 8 goes into 60 7 times. Bring up the point. 8 times 7 is 56. Subtract, we get 4. Add a 0, don't forget. We get 40. 8 into 40 is 5. 5 times 8 is 40. Good night. And that is 37.5%. And you are done. So you can do that if you'd like. Let me show you one other way, and I'll let you pick your own way. You ready? Or, remember, the whole key to change something to a percent is to multiply by 100. So either I can multiply by 100 from the get-go, or I can change this to a decimal first. So watch. Okay, 8 goes into 30 3 times. That makes 24. Subtract, you get 6. Drop the 0, you have 60. We have 8 times 7 is 56. Subtract, we get 4. Add a 0. 8 into 40 goes exactly 5 times, but you haven't multiplied by 100 yet. So I'm going to take this off, because remember now to change a decimal to a percent, we're going to multiply by 100 or bring the decimal to the right 2 places. So here we go. And now I think you see you're going to get the same answer. Do whatever you'd like. 0.3, that used to be a 3. 0.375 times 100 is 37.5%. So pick your own poison, this way or this way. Sometimes there's even a third way. I'm not going to go crazy with that. But this way or this way. First multiply by 100 and then divide, or divide first and then multiply by 100. Anything you like better, your choice. Okay. Why don't you try number 2, 3, 2 and 3. Don't try 4 yet, but try 2 and 3. And then we'll check your answer. Okay, look at 7/20. I don't know what you wanted to do. Absolutely up to you. Some people like to divide first. If you'd like to divide first, doesn't matter what you do, you should get the same answer. Does not matter. Bring the point up. 20 does not go into 7. 20 goes into 7D 3 times. 20 times 3 is 60. You get 10. Bring down your 0. 20 into 100 is 5. And that's 100. Awesome. So that is 0.35. You did not multiply by 100 yet. 0.35 times 100 is, move the decimal 2 places to the right, 35%. Awesome. All right, how'd that go for you? That was a nice one. One in nice, really nice. Okay, let's do 1/3. Now, let's go back and think about 1/3. There's a couple of things you can do, and it actually depends on usually what you're asked. Sometimes they want this to the nearest tenth, because remember what happened to 1/3 before? 1/3 repeats, okay? So either you can keep it as a decimal, or you can keep it as a fraction. I'm going to actually show you your two choices. You ready? Here we go. 1/3. Because they don't tell you, just as expressed as a percent. They didn't tell you what to do. I'm going to show you two ways you could do this problem. Okay, we've already done this problem like twice, I think. But you get 3, then 3 times 3 is 9. You get 1, so you get 3. The 3's keep going, okay? So here's what you could do. What you could do is round it somewhere. But remember, 0.333 times 100 would be 33.3%. So either you can round it to the nearest tenth, nearest hundredth, nearest whole number. If you round it to the nearest whole number, you would get 33%. Sometimes what they want us to do is actually keep it as a fraction, because remember we said that decimals aren't as exact as fractions. So just not to confuse matters, I'm going to do this over here and show you another way you might want to leave your answers. Absolutely up to you. Watch. 1/3. We can do this little thing about dividing. Point. 3 goes into 10 3 times. That makes 9. Right? 10 minus 9 is 1. Bring it down. That's 10. You get 3 again. So 3 times 3 is 9. And you keep going, right? And the remainder is 1 here. So what you could do is do this. Multiply by 100. And you get 33%, but there's 1 left over, 1/3, and 1/3%. So you can leave it like that if you like. Either way you want to do it. Again, you could have multiplied by 100 by the get-go. Doesn't matter, but this answer or this answer is rounded, but it is not exact. This is an approximate answer. This is an exact answer. Remember, when you deal with repeating decimals, you have to either have a rounded answer or an exact answer. Better usually to leave it as a fraction if you want the exact answer. Okay? So that's number 3. Let's look at number 4. Again, up to you what you want to do first. Do you want to divide the 1/4? You might even know what 1/4 is already. I don't know. That's up to you. Or do you want to multiply by 100 right away? I've been dividing first, but it doesn't matter. So let's take a look at number 4. 10 1/4, oh, it's not a percent. We want it to be a percent. That would be our dream. Okay, 10 1/4, we want to change it to percent. Absolutely up to you. Watch what I'm thinking, okay? This is what's going on in my head. I'm writing this down. Here we go. What's going on in my head is, I wonder what 1/4 is. Well, listen, if you have 1/4 in your pocket, how much do you have? 25 cents. Well, watch. Okay. Well, I didn't need to put 2 zeros right away, but okay. 4 goes into 10 twice. 2 times 4 is 8. 10 minus 8 is 2. Bring this down. 4 into 20 goes 5 times. 4 times 5 is 20. There's your quarter, right? There's your quarter. So this is actually 10.25, but it's not a percent yet. I didn't multiply by 100. I didn't do anything to make it a percent. I didn't multiply it by 100 yet. So I'm going to multiply that by 100 now, and I get 10.25%, or 1,025%. Oh, I'd rather have that go towards my salary. 1,025% of my salary next year. Awesome. I'm done for the day, for the year, for the lifetime, for my lifetime. Okay, let's take all of this that we learned now. We know how to change a fraction to a percent. We know how to change a decimal to a percent. And let's see how that will help us solve that challenge question we were looking at before. Okay? All right, here we go. That last question. It says, if you took an 11-question quiz and you got 8 questions correct, what was your grade? Now, we're going to do a problem like this later, but this is as simple as doing this. I really got 8 correct out of 11. I want the percent. That's all we're really doing. We can make this a big deal. We can make this a little deal. I'd rather make it a little deal. We got 8 questions correct out of 11. We want to make that a percent. Okay, I can either multiply by 100 now, or I could change it to a decimal first and then multiply by 100. It does not matter. 8.0. 11 doesn't go into 8. 11 goes into 87 times. That's 77. We're going to subtract. Bring a 0 down. 11 goes into 30 twice. That's 22. Subtract. You get an 8. Oh, I see something going on here. I have a 0 going on. 11 goes into 87 times. Oh, let me guess what's next. That's 77. We get a 3. Bring down a 0. We get a 2. So here's what we got. 0.72 with a bar over it. Okay, so here's the deal. 0.72 with a bar over it. We want it to the nearest whole percent. So I really want my next number. Here's why. If I take 0.72 and multiply it by 100, that's 72%. I don't have enough digits to round. So I'm going to take my next digit, which is a 7. I'm going to multiply that by 100, and that is 72.7%. But we want it to the nearest whole percent. So I have to look at my ones place, look at the number right next to it. If it's a 5 or higher, I have to raise that up, and I do. So it's 73%. So on that quiz, you got a 73%, and that's how that works. Okay, have a good day, and the next time we visit, we're going to do more applications of percents.